Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Amma ba'du, fa'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. يا أيها الذين آمنوا استجيبوا لله وللرسول إذا دعاكم لما يحييكم. Surah Al-Anfal, verse 25. The verse that I have just recited before you, in this verse Allah the Almighty says that, O ye who believe, answer the call of God, answer the call of Allah and that of the Messenger. When He calls you, answer His call, because when you answer His call, He gives you a new life. Promised Messiah ﷺ said, and it was very beautifully sung by Bilal Raja Sahib earlier this evening, Sidq se meri taraf aao isi mein khair hai darinde har taraf main afiyat ka hoon hisar. So today what I want to do is I want to share story, tale of those people who hearkened to the call of the promised Messiah ﷺ and became part of this citadel of security. Just yesterday in his Friday sermon, our beloved Imam Hazrat Amir al-Mumineen Ayyadahullah Ta'ala bin Nasr al-Aziz mentioned that the promised Messiah ﷺ had written in one place that any individual who with the sincerity of his heart prays to Allah the Almighty to reveal to him or her regarding the truthfulness of the promised Messiah ﷺ, he said 40 days would not pass that Allah the Almighty would reveal to that individual regarding the truthfulness of Hazrat Masih Maud ﷺ. 40 दिन नहीं गुजरेंगे कि उस शख्स पर अल्लाह ताला जाहिर कर देगा मसीह मऊद अलैहिस्सलाम की सदाकत की बाबत. In his book Tale of the Two Martyrdoms, Tazkiratu Shahadatain, on page number 76, promised Messiah अलैहिस्सलाम Sayyidina Imam Mahdi अलैहिस्सलाम wrote, खुदा इस जमात को एक ऐसी कौम बनाना चाहता है जिसके नमूने से लोगों को खुदा याद आवे और जो तकवा और तहारत के अव्वल दर्जे पर कायम हो और जिन्होंने दर हकीकत दीन को दुनिया पर मुकद्दम रख लिया हो. The promised Messiah ﷺ in his book Tale of Two Martyrdoms on page number 76 wrote that Allah desires to convert this Jamaat into a nation. What kind of nation? He said a nation whose model is as such that when other people look upon this nation, this Jamaat of promised Messiah ﷺ, they see Allah, they see God. And not only that, but these people who are to be part of this Jamaat of Masih Maud ﷺ, they have the highest level of spirituality, God, to fear God, piety, and cleanliness, taharat. And last but not least, he said, who have truly given precedence and preference to their deen, their faith, their religion, over everything else which is worldly. Now, I'm going to share the story of those men who saw and accepted the promised Messiah ﷺ by praying to Allah the Almighty first. I want to start off by sharing the story of a scholar of Islam. His name was Maulvi Rahimullah Sahib of Lahore radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. He himself was a Sufi, a sage, a man of spirituality. He used to be the Imam of a very famous mosque in Lahore, and it was known about him that at times when he would be praying, Allah Ta'ala would reveal, through kashaf, through divine visions, many things to him. So we're talking about a man who is not any Tom, Dick and Harry, but a man who was truly close to Allah the Almighty. He hears about Hazrat Masih Maud ﷺ's claim. Look at what he does. He took up the offer of the promised Messiah Islam. He prayed to Allah the Almighty to reveal to him if promised Messiah Islam is indeed from Allah or not. He says he did the istikhara, and as a result of this istikhara, Allah showed him a dream. Now this dream is very interesting. In this dream, he saw that a falcon is descending from the heavens. Asman se ek dolli utar rahi hai. He saw a falcon descending from the heavens, and there is a curtain on that falcon. He says, in that vision, in that dream, I approached this falcon, and I am told that the Messiah has descended from the heavens. He says, in his heart, this desire overtakes him, so he goes closer, and he removes the curtain from the face of the falcon. Lo and behold, who does he see sitting in that falcon? Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad of Qadian alayhi salatu wasalam. His prayer was answered. He accepted the promised Messiah alayhi salatu wasalam right there and then. Next is a very beautiful story of 4 friends. We have so many youngsters here. So many people who call themselves friends of one another. This is a story of 4 friends, maybe similar to you. One of those friends was Hazrat Munshi Zafar Ahmad Sahib radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. The other one was Munshi Arora Khan Sahib radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. The third one was Hazrat Muhammad Khan Sahib radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. And the fourth one was Hazrat Munshi Abdur Rahman Sahib radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. Promised Messiah alayhi salatu wasalam published an announcement a month or so, or a little time ago, before the 23rd of March 1889. And all 4 of these friends received that announcement. 3 of them made the plan that they're going to go to Ludhiana and give their oath of allegiance at the hands of the promised Messiah Islam. And they did. The 4th one did not come. His name was Munshi Abdur Rahman Sahib. He said, I'm not going to make any haste, I'm going to pray to Allah Ta'ala. So he prayed to Allah Ta'ala, he did istikhara. And when he did the istikhara, he received revelation. He heard a voice. And the voice said to him, Abdur Rahman, Aja. Abdur Rahman, come. This is how Allah communicated with him. And he ended up going to Ludhiana and also gave his oath of allegiance at the hands of the promised Messiah Islam. Now I want to share a story of a young student. Actually, a story of 2 brothers. Hazrat Mirza Ayub Beg Sahib and his younger brother. They both were young students, college-going students, and they had been reading about the promised Messiah Islam. And they both were making up their mind that they want to go and accept the promised Messiah Islam. Imagine how happy must they have been when they found out that promised Messiah Islam was visiting their city, Lahore. This happened in the month of February 1892. Promised Messiah Islam was in Lahore, and these 2 young brothers found out that the promised Messiah is there in their city. So, without telling anybody, without even telling one another, both brothers came back to back to accept the promised Messiah Islam. The elder brother was Hazrat Mirza Ayub Beg Sahib radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. He comes with a classmate of his, and he says that I came to the place where the promised Messiah Islam was staying. And my emotions overtook me that I am standing in the same structure, same building, where the Messiah of this day and age is physically present. He says his emotions overtook him and he started to weep until he couldn't control himself. And he sent a message inside that, please tell Huzur that there are 2 students here and we would like to see the promised Messiah. Hazrat Masih Maud alayhi salatu wasalam accepted their request and called them to come upstairs. Both young men went upstairs and expressed their desire that they want to do the bath at the hands of promised Messiah. Hazrat Masih Maud alayhi salatu wasalam graciously accepted. Now picture this, I want you to visualize this. Put yourself in the shoes of those 2 young men. Back in those days, the bath was used to happen one-on-one. Nowadays when we talk about bath, the picture of international bath comes to one's mind, where you have thousands and thousands of people making a human chain. A person putting his hand on the shoulder of the person in front of him, until all these people have a physical link with Khalifatul Masih. This is how nowadays we see bath happening. Back in those days, this is how ba'ath used to happen. The promised Messiah alayhi salam would call in a room an individual one by one. He would grab hold of their wrist. Imagine that. He would grab hold of their wrist. And then he would go over the 10 conditions of ba'ath one by one. And then he would explain in detail what each condition meant. And then the person would say that I am willing till my last breath to accept these conditions. And then the promised Messiah alayhi salam would accept their ba'ath. Put yourself in the shoes of those individuals. Mirza Ayyub Beg Sahib's younger brother, who was in medical school at that time, he says when we accepted the promised Messiah alayhi salam, we changed altogether. Before accepting the promised Messiah alayhi salam, we would not pray. We would occasionally pray when we visit our home and our father would be there. But that was it. We would waste our time, we would walk around in the bazaar, in the markets, and that was it. Probably the equivalent of, nowadays when we play video games and waste our time. He says, when we accepted the promised Messiah alayhi salatu wasalam, my friends would be playing and I would be praying to Allah Ta'ala. My friends would be wasting their time and I would be reciting the Holy Quran. He says that he and his brother, when they went home over the summer holidays, their father was shocked. He was not Ahmadi, their father was shocked. He didn't know what happened to his kids. So he inquired, he investigated, and he found out that his sons have accepted Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad of Qadian alayhi salatu wasalam. And this is why there is this huge change in his sons. He also accepted the promised Messiah alayhi salam, looking at that change. And towards the end, I want to share the story of Hazrat Malik Mola Baksh Sahib radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. Now this is, once again, whichever companion you look at, they're like shining bright stars in the heavens of Ahmadiyyat. Rasul Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam once mentioned that all of my companions are bright stars. Whichever you follow, you will find guidance. Same is the case with the companions of the promised Messiah alayhi salam. Hazrat Malik Mola Baksh Sahib radiyallahu ta'ala anhu was a very rational person. He used to internalize everything before accepting it. So, when the promised Messiah ﷺ talked about Nizam-e Wasiyat, he tried rationalizing it, he tried understanding it. It didn't make sense to him. He did not sign Wasiyat. One day, one of his friends, whose name was Dr. Saifuddin Kichilu Sahib, who at one point did become MD for a very brief period in history. His friend Dr. Kichilu Sahib became a political leader in the political party called Congress in India. And soon after becoming a political leader, he gave up praying altogether. He stopped praying altogether. So his friend Malak Sahib, who was a companion of promised Messiah Islam, he was shocked. He walked up to his friend and he said, "What happened? You don't pray anymore?" He said, "My political work is more important than my prayers." This physically moved, disturbed Malak Sahib. So Hazrat Malak Sahib radiyallahu ta'ala anhu said, "Tell me this. Are you not a Muslim?" He said, "Of course I am." "Do you not believe that Quran is the revealed word of Allah the Almighty? It was revealed by Allah, sent by Allah." He said, "Of course I believe." He said, "Then why is it that when in the same revealed book Allah says, read your prayers, you're choosing not to?" So the response Kichulu Sahib gave was this. He said, "Just because something is revealed doesn't mean that I have to follow it. I will only follow that which appeals to me and makes sense to me." This did not sit well with Malak Sahib radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. So he came back and he started talking about Dr. Kichlu Sahib with his friends until he had an epiphany. It hit him. He thought, how am I different than Kichlu Sahib? How am I different than Kichlu Sahib? Did Allah the Almighty not send the promised Messiah alayhi salam? Of course He did. Did Nizam-e Wasiyat not come from Allah the Almighty? Of course it did. Have I not accepted promised Messiah alayhi salam? Of course I have. Then why have I not signed up for Wasiyat? This is a question that I want to pose before every single one of you who's sitting here. क्या हम अहमदी नहीं हैं? क्या हमने मसीह मऊद अलैहिस्सलाम की बात नहीं की? क्या मसीह मऊद अलैहिस्सलाम खुदा की तरफ से नहीं थे? क्या निज़ाम वसीयत खुदा से पाकर हजरत मसीह मऊद अलैहिस्सलाम ने अपनी जमात को नहीं दिया? तो फिर क्या वजह है कि मसीह मौत को तो मानते हैं लेकिन निज़ाम वसीयत में शामिल नहीं होते? I would end my speech at an excerpt by the private secretary of the promised Messiah alayhi salam. His name was Hazrat Maulvi Abdul Kareem Sahib Sialkoti radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. He accepted the promised Messiah alayhi salam, and there came about an extreme change in his personality. He says, before accepting the promised Messiah alayhi salam, he used to believe that religion is whatever I think of religion to be. Religion is not what Allah tells me what it is. Religion is basically whatever I think religion is, that's what I'm going to take as religion. He says his friend Maulana Nuruddin Sahib radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Awwal, accepted promised Messiah alayhi salam, and he told me that Abdul Kareem, accept this man. I said, you're my friend, you won't lie to me, I'll accept him. But in his heart of hearts, he wasn't sure. But then something happened. When he saw promised Messiah alayhi salam and he accepted him, an internal change started to happen in his person. He says, मैंने कुरान भी पढ़ा था, मौलाना नूरुद्दीन के तफ़ाइल से हदीस का शौक भी हो गया, घर में सूफियों की किताबें भी पढ़ लिया करता था, मगर ईमान में वो रोशनी, वो नूर मार्फत में तरक्की ना थी जो अब है। इसलिए मैं अपने दोस्तों को अपने तजर्बे की बिना पर कहता हूँ, याद रखो, इस खलीफतुल्लाह के देखने के बदूं सहाबा का सा जिंदा ईमान नहीं मिल सकता। उसके पास रहने से तुम्हें मालूम होगा कि वो कैसे मौके मौके पर खुदा की वही सुनाता है और वो पूरी होती है, तो रूह में एक मोहब्बत और अखलास का चश्मा फूट पड़ता है जो ईमान के पौधे की आपाशी करता है। He says, learn from my personal example that when I accepted the promised Messiah alayhi salatu wasalam, ever since I see a change in my person. He says, I used to read the Quran through Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Awwal. He said that he eventually, found his love in reading the hadith. He even had books of Sufis in his home. But there was no real spirituality in him until he accepted the promised Messiah ﷺ and started acting on the conditions of that. It was then that he found that spiritual change in his person. He says, until and unless you spend time with the elect of God, you will not experience what I'm talking about. It is because when you spend time with the elect of God, He reads to you revelations on daily basis, fresh signs from Allah the Almighty. That is what changes you. My dear brothers, there is an excellent opportunity for your children, for the young students who are Khuddam. Inshallah ta'ala in June, our Majlis Khuddam al-Ahmadiyya will be sending young Khuddam, high school students, to London to spend time with Khalifatul Masih, who is the elect of God in this day and age. I shared with you the stories of those young men who would travel just so that they could be in the company of the promised Messiah Islam. We do not have promised Messiah Islam alive anymore, but his Khalifa is, and your children, your sons can have that opportunity, life-changing opportunity where they can go and spend some quality time in the company of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Ayyadahu Aziz. So I hope and pray that you take this as the action item from this gathering, that you encourage your high school students, your high school sons, so that they can participate and benefit from this. Wa akhiru da'wana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alamin.